Hello everyone and welcome to Autocrat. This is episode 109, Sneaky Mettius.
Or Foof, as you insisted on calling him last time.
Last time we saw peace made with Alba Longa after the duel between the triplets. However, peace was only there for a short while. In fact, the notes in our edition of Livy places this event in about 670 BCE.
Yeah, so about 2 years into Tullus's reign.
Now, granted, the other events are too, but I think it's, not bad at the chronology.
Yeah. Now, why does the peace not stay that long?
Well, this is because of Mettius Fufetius, dictator of Alba Longa, although Sextus Aurelius Victor calls him a general in his history.
Yeah, it varies. The point is, he's the guy in charge.
Yeah. He was a weak man and bowed to public outrage about him submitting to Rome. They were horrified at the idea of their future having been wagered on how 3 people fought. Wagered. However, Livy still thinks this idea had been a good one, although the strategy had failed.
Yeah, I mean, Livy would say that as the Roman historian who won, wouldn't he?
Mettius himself was in a difficult position.
Yeah.
His people believed him a traitor, as Hostilius had explicitly kept him on for his 3rd year running by order of Hostilius after their war.
Right, so he's keeping Foof in place, which probably makes him look like a big old puppet to the people of Alba Longa. I mean, so clearly that war went on for at least 2 years after Cludius died.
Clearly. Mettius now wanted to make himself more popular again, even if the methods were not really that, legitimate.
Yeah, I mean, Alba Longa's not that strong militarily, so you can't show off in a really powerful manner.
Yeah. So he set on a strategy of interfering with tribes nearby.
Yeah.
Mettius now resolved to rebel.
Sure.
He sent out envoys to the enemies of Rome, encouraging them to strike in the upcoming war.
Yeah, the war we're going to talk about now.
Yeah, basically. Saying Alba Longa would be with them.
Ooh.
These people were in theory Rome allies, but he thought he could eventually get them to betray Rome.
A very sneaky Mettius.
This brings us back to Fideni, who we last dealt with in the reign of Romulus.
Right.
On to you.
Yes. After a year of peace, Rome went to war with Fideni. They and the city of Veii were both convinced to declare war on Rome, after a certain Mettius promised that Alba Longa would rise up and fight on their side. Note that Tullus Hostilius had, by the way, been preparing for war this whole time, so he's not coming off as the peace-loving hero of the story either.
Alright.
This is because he claimed that the city had rebelled, telling his envoys they owed Rome nothing now that Romulus was dead. When Tullus Hostilius found out that Fideni had broken away, he ordered Mettius to join him and set out himself to fight, so he still thinks that Alba Longa are his trusty allies. Troops were raised, including auxiliary troops from Alba Longa and other Roman quote-unquote allies. Now, Hostilius was pleased with Mettius' seeming willingness to fight, as the equipment of the Alban reinforcements apparently put all Rome's other allies to shame. So he was quite open with Mettius about his war plans, probably saying, "Now come here, Mettius, who I trust implicitly and who will never ever betray me, never, let me tell you about my top secret war plans." I mean, the plan that the Alba Longans have is essentially to turn on the Romans midway through a battle. I mean, it worked in, 17th century Japan, for example. Why can't it work here? The army crossed the Anio River and stopped where the Anio joined the Tiber. The army of Veii had also crossed the Tiber between Tullus Hostilius and the city of Fideni. At dawn, the forces lined up, Romans on the left flank opposite the Veians, who had come to Fideni's aid, and the Albans on the right. You got that?
I do.
Good.
The Alban on the left and the other one on the right.
No, the other way round. Moving on.
Which hand is my right one?
Which hand is your right one? The one that isn't your left one.
Thank you.
The one? Well, which hand is your right one? The ones the Alba Longans would have been on.
So this one.
No. Listeners, she's holding up her left hand. There we go. Now it's the right hand. Anyway. The Albans formed the right flank of an army near the river, while Fidenae's army was to the left and was closer to the hill country. Tullus placed his own men to fight Veii, as we said, dispatching Alba Longa to deal with the other side. Now, the Albans are there, in the hill country, yeah?
Okay, cool.
However, Livy tells us that Mettius was afraid to either abandon Rome fully or to fight, so he slowly withdrew towards the hills. When he believed himself to be far enough away, he deployed in order to buy some time. I can't fight now, my men are busy getting their swords ready and untangling them, or whatever it is you do when you deploy. This would buy time until there was a clear winner, at which point he would rush in and join whoever was winning. This left the Roman flank, who had been near the Albans, at a loss as to where exactly the Albans had gone. They probably turned round and just saw empty ground with thousands of empty footprints in it.
Where are you guys gone?
I could have
thought we were going to play.
I could have sworn I left an entire army here. I'm so careless these days. Did I leave them in the fruit bowl by mistake again? By contrast, Fidenae was emboldened by messengers who told them about Alba's treachery, and accordingly in the battle Fidenae fought hard, meaning the Romans struggled on the right flank. A rider came up to Tullus and told him the Albans had deserted. Not what you want to hear when you're the king of Rome in the middle of a battle.
Not really.
So Tullus thought of a very, very clever plan.
What is it?
He lied.
That's clever.
He told an untruth. Yes, he sent the man back and loudly claimed to everyone around him there was no reason to panic, as he'd ordered the Albans to leave to encircle the Fidenae troops and attack them from the rear. This is a plan. They're not running away, guys. Please don't run. Please don't break. You're kind of all I have now. He also ordered... Liar, liar. Tunic on fire. He also ordered the cavalry to lift their spears, so that they formed a visual block and physically prevented the common soldiers from seeing the Albans marching away. If any soldiers did see them leave, Tullus's reassurance, which was definitely true, please don't worry about the fact his tunic is on fire and his nose has grown longer, only emboldened them. Now, the enemy had heard what Tullus said, and they were both convinced and worried by it. This was possible because the people of Fidenae actually understood Latin. Why? Well, remember that most of these guys are actually descendants of Roman colonists that Romulus had sent there when he defeated the city in the past. Alternatively, it's possible the ruse worked a little too well and Fidenae became suspicious of Alba's true motives rather than just panicking because Tullus said so. So, they retreated to avoid the Albans they now definitely believed rushing at them from the back. Fidenae broke and ran back for the city, with Veii resisting the Roman cavalry but running when they found out what happened as well. Tullus charged and crushed them, then rounding on the men of Veii. They, in turn, fled to the river. This river blocked them, and some threw themselves in to swim, while some were indecisive and were accordingly caught up with and killed on the bank. Those who chose to swim had a bit of a mixed fate. The best swimmers made it, but many died in the Tiber's rapids and eddies at this point. This was apparently the most violent battle that Rome had yet experienced. And that's saying something. We had Romulus before. But anyway, it's over now.
Whew.
Once it was done, the Albans showed up with a bunch of halos over their heads. And Mettius, hoping his halo looked big and shiny and innocent enough, offered his congratulations. Tullus was polite, but hoped they would continue to be this lucky. So they all camped for the night. Now, there is an alternative telling of this, because everything has an alternative telling at this point in history. Apparently, when Hostilius learned it was Mettius who was behind this whole indecisive wavering thing, he rode for Rome. Now, apparently, Fidenae was about 40 stadia away from Rome.
Now, for those of you like me who don't know what stadia means, that's about 6.3 kilometers. And for those of you who don't know what kilometers is, even though the metric system is by far the best, that's something in miles.
Excellent. We've declared war on the mile community. I think it's about 5 miles? I know 1.6 kilometres is a mile, but that's about as far as I got. I didn't do the maths for that bit, listeners, so this is now interactive. You do the maths.
Now, to get a sense of scale, by the way, Alba Longa is about 11 miles, whatever that means, from Rome. So about 3 times further than Fidense. So if it's 3 times further, that's like 3 times 6, which is 18 or something. So let's say about 20 kilometers away.
It's something like 18 kilometers, roughly. Again, didn't do the maths, didn't think you were going to pick me up on this point.
It's fun because the metric system's better.
Yeah, there is, again, a bit of a discrepancy. Eutropius tells us instead that...
Vote in our comments which one's better, thank you.
Oh, yes, I forgot we can do polls. Now, anyway, Eutropius doesn't tell us whether miles are better than kilometres or not. He says that Veii is the city 5 miles away and that Fidense is 17 miles from Rome. You get the point, it's not a big distance.
Yeah, I get the point, we're using miles.
We're using whichever I can use in my notes at that moment in time. Or whichever one my sources use. Tullus Hostilius and the Senate, back in Rome, then decided on a course of action. Tullus questioned prisoners in the Veientine camp all through the night when he then got back after the decision had been made. Mettius was lured in with the promise of rewards for his actions in the battle, probably saying, "Well done, Mettius, you stood on that hill and did nothing so well, here's a prize." He duly showed up with a list of notable men who'd performed well in the battle, as requested by Hostilius.
So basically a list of conspirators.
Yeah, bring everyone close to you who has decision-making power. Either way, the outcome is the same. The following dawn, both armies, that of Rome and Alba Longa, were ordered to array themselves. The Albans arrived first and set up closer to Tullus in order to hear him better, like those people who camp out near a stage so they can hear the band better. The Albans were encouraged to come to Rome without weapons. Do you think they did it?
No.
Yeah, they did. They did. They showed up without weapons. The Romans, by contrast, had been told to show up armed and line up around the people of Alba Longa, which they did. Tullus now spoke to the Albans, who were probably getting a bit of a sinking feeling at this point, looking at all the swords. He accused them of treachery. He announced the treason of Alba Longa and that he had not, in fact, given that order that they should go to the hillside. I'm going to skip the massive, massive speech that Dionysus of Halicarnassus gives us, but the Albans essentially said they knew nothing about it and it was all Mettius' doing, it was all his fault, blame him. However, he did not blame the soldiers, that is Tullus, but the man who led them. Mettius was announced to have broken their treaty and would be punished. He was seized, and Tullus announced that all the Albans, all of them, would be deported to Rome.
Alright then.
They would be Roman citizens, but by hook or by crook, these people would be one city and culture again. Just like they'd been in good old Aeneas' day. The split from when Romulus left to found Rome would now be undone. The Alban soldiers had no weapons, because obviously they didn't, and were seized, shaking and afraid. The Albans panicked, and Mettius pretended Tullus's lie of the strategic withdrawal to encircle the enemy had been his goal all along. He told his men to hunt down and kill as many stragglers from Fidense as they could, by the way, to capture as evidence. Tullus now told Mettius he should have killed him long ago.
That's not very nice to hear.
Well, now Mettius's split loyalties between Fidense and Rome would be reflected in his body.
What?
And if you don't like gore, you should skip ahead a little bit.
Okay, I will be skipping ahead.
Well, you don't get to. The indecision was painful, Tullus said, but this would be far worse, trust him. Mettius was tied to 2 chariots with 4 horses each and would be ripped in half, bits of his body dragging behind both chariots. I'm sorry. The ancient world isn't fun. They were violent back then. We probably still are, but not in this specific way. Everyone avoided looking at this horrifying and inhumane punishment.
I bet.
This was the first and last time that this punishment would be doled out.
Thank you.
Mettius was probably delighted by that. Yay, no one after me gets it. Hostilius announced that Alba Longa would be destroyed. The people of Alba Longa, and Mettius, when he tried to deny everything, didn't know that Marcus Horatius had already been sent that morning to raze Alba to the ground. Hence, the Senate arriving at a plan when Tullus came to see them. Yeah. So, Mettius Fufetius is dead. Several sources give this version we did, including a historian called Orosius, who I don't think we've mentioned yet, and Alba Longa is now going to be annihilated. Cavalry had been sent to Alba Longa to move the people, with the infantry following to rip the town down. They were not met by siege or by resistance, but silence. The people were confused and despairing, unsure what to take with them and what to leave behind, wailing to each other or pacing through rooms that they would never see again. So the cavalry evicted them to the sound of houses crashing to the ground. The dust that created made the sky go dark. Alba Longa was gone, and the population was deported to Rome, and just 1 hour after they left, Alba Longa, except for its temples, was gone. Livy writes, quote, "The work of 400 years lay in utter ruin," end quote. Rome, however, became twice as large. Yay! The Caelian Hill was added to the city limits.
I think you mean Litz.
Okay, I spelt that wrong. Well done.
Yes.
He spelled that wrong. He spelled that wrong.
Tullus created a palace there to promote people building on that hill, and in fact made it his primary home. He also announced that several families would be admitted to the patrician rank in Rome and to the Senate. These families were the Curiatii,
The Gigantii, the Tulli, the Mitilli, the Quintilli, the Clavilli, the Servili, and the Julii.
the Julii.
Ooh,
Hold on to that last one.
I will.
Did the first one sound familiar, by the way, the Curiatii?
A little bit.
They were those triplets who fought the Roman ones.
Do I still have to keep holding on July?
I mean, you can probably let go of it in the sense that I will come back to it when we
Okay.
do, but I will probably save this as a soundbite for when we eventually reach the Julii. You might not know this, but they're quite a big deal.
I'm sure they are.
They're
Not sure why.
They're reasonably famous. Anyway, we come back in future as well, at least to the Quinctii, so keep your eye on them for the future as well, but don't hold on to it, you're fine not to. Tullus made a new building for the swelled Senate, known afterwards as the Curia Hostilia. Albans were also added to an expanded Roman military. Now, let's talk for a minute about this phenomenon of the conquest of Alba Longa.
Why?
Well, historians think that Tullus Hostilius is most likely made up.
Oh, easy now.
Certainly his reign seems rather longer than average. Spoiler alert, he rules for 36 years.
I mean, yeah, that's longer than average for that time, I guess.
It's not uncommon among Roman kings, as you'll see, but compared to other figures throughout history, it's abnormally long, and I'm sure we'll get to that in future analysis when we finish chapter 4. His name might actually have come from that building, the Curia Hostilia Senate House, built in the late 600s, rather than him giving his name to it, so it's the other way around. We will allude to that building's construction next episode, but suffice to say, you might remember the Romans had great reverence for their ancestors.
Yeah.
Dio points out the Romans had given honour to Alba Longa for half a millennium, but had now killed its ruler, burnt it to the ground, and deported its people. So, they needed to paint the takeover of Alba Longa as an accordingly comparatively peaceable affair, to make themselves feel better and able to sleep at night. The Christian historian Orosius calls Tullus Hostilius the founder of Rome's military, so I guess it makes sense that it would be attributed to him. And there's a quote from one of my sources about this whole story, quote, "No matter what had happened in reality," end quote. So, we get this story, because the Romans wanted to allow themselves to sleep at night and not wake up screaming Alba Longa's name in terror.
Alright.
So that's Alba Longa gone. The city of Aeneas. Boom.
Yeah, that's kind of a... Yeah.
So,
Goodbye.
yeah, so from now on, it's just Rome.
Woohoo!
Yay! Don't we all feel good about ourselves?
Well, thank you all for listening. This is the end of our episode. And we hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time. And don't forget that metric system is better than imperial.
Regardless of your system preferences, have a great week, everyone.
Bye.
Oh wait, Alba Longa's not Aeneas, is it? It's his son. What's his face? Ascanius.
Oh.
I'm going to add that in post, otherwise the people who are binging this show will never forgive me. Hi, by the way.